talking about this guy before the show, and I was talking about I saw a mock draft somewhere, and this guy had Jamar Chase going 5th, 6th, something like that. We've taken him. We've seen him go first before. But he had Cooper Kupp solid in as number 2, and even said as number 1. His top 3 were Jefferson, Kupp, CMC. He said you could take him in just about any order, but he really, really, really liked Kupp. And, the headlines for Kupp, even if I weren't looking at it, I already have. They're obvious. It's like basically just don't forget how good this guy is. We saw him, forget last year. Actually, don't forget last year because he was awesome last year. Like, wasn't he like the best?
He was, yes. He was first in points per game last year and the year before.
Right. And so, the year before, he had the Triple Crown season, maybe like the best season receivers ever had. He not only did it all season long as a Kupp owner, I can tell you that was thrilling. But then, also he had the chops where it's just like, oh, you need me in the Super Bowl? Okay, just throw me the ball every single time. And he wins the Super Bowl and he wins the Super Bowl MVP. So that was 2 years ago, which seems like a really long time ago, but it's not. Then last year, at some point he got injured. At the time he got injured, he was the best. So now we're coming back in, and it's like it seems like some people have forgotten about Cooper Kupp, but now it seems like there's a resurgence back going the other way where everyone's like, oh, right, he's awesome. Now we're seeing him as the 2, the 1, the 3. So sell me on Cooper Kupp, even though you really don't have to.
Yeah, if you need to be sold on Cooper Kupp, then you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. The wide receiver 1, as we said, in back-to-back years in points per game, 25.9, 22.6. The only thing really slowing him down would be injury, because even injury to his quarterback last year, maybe it capped his record-breaking ceiling, but he still was the best receiver in fantasy for as long as he was out there. So is he going to be an injury-prone guy? Well, he played 48 of 49 games for 3 seasons prior to last year. It was just a fluke thing. It happened. I'm not worried about injuries at this point of his career, even though he's a little older than some of these exciting young bucks and Jefferson and Chase, who we might not have seen the ceiling of either yet. If they get to Kupp ceiling, then I'm happy. So I'm going to start. I have him actually at 2 overall now at Cooper Kupp, behind only Justin Jefferson in these underdog drafts. I am a diehard fan of him. Allen Robinson's gone. I know that's like, whatever, who gives a shit about him? But that was the second target gainer there last year. So potentially even more volume coming from him.
Was he really?
Yeah, on the team last year. I think Higbee might have ultimately finished with more targets by the end. But yeah, he was awful. Oh, he was so bad. An absolute bust, one of the worst in the league. But could there be even more passing game volume? Maybe, maybe not. We know McVay runs the show, but they do bring in new offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, and this should not be discounted. He was the Jets offensive coordinator the last couple of years, and most of you will probably laugh at that and say, why is that a positive? The Jets offensive coordinator? Well, when Zach Wilson was out, they led the league in passing yards per game in 2021 and 2022 with Flacco and Mike White throwing the ball. They actually had more yards per game passing than the Chiefs, than the Chargers, than the Bengals. Even they actually led the NFL in pass attempts per game with 46.5. If you project that out for over 17 games, that's 790 pass attempts. That would be an NFL record by miles if that ended up happening. So even if LaFleur just sprinkles in a little bit more pass happy tendencies here, then that's all good news for everyone, including Cooper Kupp, which this might be the most crazy stat of all with him. Over the last 2 seasons,
I was hoping you were going to read this.
Top 12 wide receiver 81% of the time. That is ridiculous. There's no other receiver that's been top 12 even 50% of the time, and he has been 81% of the time.
Well, the Graham Barfield thing, he's going top 10. The Graham Barfield tweet that you got in here, and he's going top 10, not top 12. He's going over the last 2 years as well. He's 65% there, going top 10. But the thing that's startling about it isn't the 65%, which is incredible. It's that the next highest guy is 44%.
It's nuts.
He's 50% better than the next guy. Like he's half. The next guy would have to add half of his thing to itself to get where Kupp is. That's such a just monstrous difference between him and the next guy. That's incredible. It's like when we talk about the Kelsey edge at tight end. Like, are we looking at a similar thing here? I know receiver is way deeper, but that's a massive gap.
It is deeper, but when you start 3 every single week, so you got 36 receivers at minute. It depends on your scoring setting, but 3 or 2 in a flex. That's a lot of receivers that have to be out there every single week. So to have a guy that you can just put in there and be like, he's going to be top 12 no matter what. He actually hasn't even been below his lowest point total across his last, it looks like here, 20 games No, more than that. 30 games is 11.4. And yeah, 11.4, that's not what you want from your wide receiver one, but that's his lowest in addition to 36.8, 37.6, 34, 31.3, 34.7, 31.8, 33.8, and 26, 26, 26. Like, it's ridiculous how damn good and steady this guy is. The only game that he's been outside of double digits was when he got hurt against Arizona in like the third play of the game. So this guy is an absolute monster. I'm projecting him as such. Really, it's one of those things where the only thing that can go wrong is injury to him, to his quarterback to an extent. But even if Stafford got hurt, we saw it last year, he was not playing at 100%. And Kupp still was leading the NFL in points per game for wide receivers. The role is just such a layup in terms of the easiest targets in the game. Great red zone threat. He is so good off the line of scrimmage and contested catches. So I'm going for 402 fantasy points in PPR leagues, 30 more than the next closest receiver, 140 catches, 1,820 yards, and 13 touchdowns for Cooper Kupp. And now he's at number 2 overall for me, behind Justin Jefferson, just because I could see Jefferson becoming this type of weapon. That's where Kevin O'Connell came from, and he might just use a more athletic guy in a Cooper Kupp style role. But honestly, if you told me that Kupp's playing 16, 17 games this year, I would take him over Jefferson, and I wouldn't even think twice.
Yeah, I've come around so much, not just from what you've been saying, but just because kind of the vibe that's out there, and I've been reading a lot more stuff as the season is getting closer, even though we're not. It's not exactly just around the corner, but of course I'm starting to plunge into the articles and stuff. And I remember last year I got some good, I was well received last year when I said on a couple of podcasts, everybody's looking for the next Cooper Kupp. And I said, you know who this year's Cooper Kupp's going to be? Cooper Kupp. And it was until he got hurt. And I'm just thinking, like, why is the same thing not going to be true again? It's like, exactly. This year's Cooper Kupp's probably going to be surprise, surprise Cooper Kupp again. So I agree with your projections. I'm keeping my fingers crossed he doesn't get hurt. And, his stock's going up with me every day, I got to say. He was so fun to pull for the last 2 years. I hope we get to see it again.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.